Hi and welcome. Today we're talking to Candace Dunovant, who does Beyond Quantum Healing sessions. And I had a session with her last weekend where I saw so many amazing things. Today we want to talk about the Temple of Isis in Avalon, because maybe you were there, because I saw so many people there that I know. So stay tuned. Welcome to Ascension and 5D Chat, where we discuss what is happening with our planet's ascension journey. I am Rachel Chamness. I help Lightworkers connect to their spiritual helpers and light path. Hi, thanks so much for coming.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited too. The session that I did with you was so amazing. It helped me so much. For those of you who haven't done Beyond Quantum Healing before, it is really amazing. You see all these past lives, and at the end you can ask your higher self all these questions that you wrote down ahead of time, and it's just amazing. Like my higher self, like speaking through me, it's like a deep trance of my higher self talking and answering all these questions, and I'm just observing it, like the part of my mind just like, this is great. Like the whole time I was just like, this is great. It's so amazing that you do that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you had a great session. And it is so neat in the moment to be that observer, and then even observe it yourself answering in the third person, like she experienced
so I wanted
this.
to ask you that. Is that normal? Because I was listening to the recording, and my higher self like referring to me as she, or calling me Rachel, which is weird.
Right, exactly. Yes, when your higher self is talking through you, then your higher self might refer to you as she or your name, and then so that's just one of the signs that you're talking, that you're trancing your higher self.
That's so cool. I really wanted to ask you that. I'm so glad you're saying that, because I was like, I'm not sure this is normal.
And it is also normal though for it to, sometimes it goes back and forth. Like someone might say, well, Rachel or she, and then I. So that's completely normal too in a session.
Oh, that's interesting. Sometimes when I channel higher light beings, they say we when they're talking about us, earth beings. And I think that's so weird. And I'm always like, did my ego bleed through? Like, why did they say we? But I wonder if it's just, speaking through someone else is just a weird experience. Mm-hmm. It's that thing I said I'd never do. I'm never going to do that thing like Ghost, the movie Ghost. I remember saying that when I found out I was a medium, and yeah, now that's what I do. So can you explain just a little bit about what Beyond Quantum Healing is and where it came from for the audience?
Sure. So Beyond Quantum Healing is a form of heart-based quantum healing, which offers flexible sessions through Zoom or in person. And it just gives clients the opportunity to explore their consciousness, to explore past lives. And it originally started with Dolores Cannon, and it was just past life regression. And then as she had more and more sessions, the higher self started to come in and healing started to take place. And then she developed quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT. Many years later, Candace Goldman developed Beyond Quantum Healing, BQH, which is kind of like an updated version, more modern version of QHHT, which just allows for more flexibility in sessions.
Well, it was very effective. And I really like that you can use your modalities as a Reiki healer, master teacher, as a medium, how you use that, because really some of the questions that you asked me were so intuitive. And I was thinking, even at the time, I was thinking, I'm glad I'm doing this with Candace, because that's such a good question. Like you asked really good questions, like things that I was thinking, but my consciousness was like over here. I was just watching. And so some of the questions you asked were really great, because I remember that one part where I was the being with the antenna with the eyeballs on the end. That was a strange ET. And I was like, I'm talking to the craziest looking being. And then you said, what do you look like? Look down at your body. And I was like, oh, I'm one too. So, and sometimes I was just a little bit lost, like what's going on here? And then you would ask a really good question, and then I would get the answer. So it was really neat. Really cool. Well, I wanted to tell the audience that, I talk a lot about my transformation and ascension group, especially the Lightworker group, and how we're a soul group. And we have gone to Avalon before in a month where we devoted completely to Avalon. And in that month, we learned a few things. One is that it was told to me at that time that Avalon was a place that you would go through the veil, go through the mists of Avalon, or go through a portal, or which we now know is a portal, go through the veil to get to Avalon, and that we were all there. And once I had started the month and got into all the offers, the attunement, the meditation, et cetera, the channeling of the beings that came to me, then I realized that this was the place that I had been before. So I had seen this temple so many times, and I had seen myself in it, and I'd seen many people that I work with and tag, many clients and friends who are in our soul group. And so in that month, I was like, wow, here we are. This is the temple. This is in Avalon, and it is in Atlantis. And that was maybe 2 years ago. So then when we came back to it, it was all about druids and priestesses, really. But what ended up happening is that we found out what is there. So it's a woman goddess-ish being is what we knew, that was teaching us, and we called her Our Lady. Now I knew that going in, but when I got there, I realized it was the Magdalene. It was Magdalene, known as Mary Magdalene in Jesus's times, one of her human incarnations. But in this incarnation, she is a more like her higher self. So she's very goddess-like, and she's teaching us how to be light workers, or how to do all this work so that we can ascend in this life. So very interestingly is how much I learned in this session. So this month, we're really working with understanding the rituals of that time. And in this session, I saw all the members of TAG, future members. I saw everyone there. We were all women in that time. And I remember I even asked her that, are we all women? And she said, yes, in this life, we were all female. So it doesn't mean that, everybody's female in this incarnation, but it was just interesting. And we were priestesses, or we were alkalades is really what she called us. And before, I had seen these exercises that we did that were where we would trade off. Like we would kind of, like she would almost trance us, but we were sitting in front of her. We would our spirit inhabit her body and do the ritual. I had seen that before. So in my BQH session, what did I say I saw? I saw, you can help me remember. I saw the heart-based exercises, right?
Yes, or I think you said that we sat in a circle and we did a heart-based exercise or meditation to return to our heart. And then we
went into human bodies.
Yeah. And this was all in your Beyond Quantum Healing session. This was the past life that you experienced.
So in this regression that I did with you, that's where I saw everyone. That's where I saw the tag members. You remember because you were there, but for the audience. And then, she said, okay, so we would lie down and do what looked like a meditation, but we're in Avalon. So what we did was go into our heart center, and then we would go into human lives and try to live this crazy 3D life and stay in our heart center. And I thought that was really interesting because that is what I've always believed, that this life is just an experiment or an exercise where we try to remember that we have no proof of anything. And we're just trying to remember that we're not alone. We have many spirit guides and helpers, that there's more to life than what we see, and that we can always choose love. It's all about choosing love over fear, this entire exercise of this life. And there it was right there, us practicing that. I thought that was so cool.
That's so cool.
I know. And you were there too. I saw you there, of course. What else did I see about the exercise? I remember us doing timelines, right? So I remember that in more than one life, but in that life also we were doing some work on timelines.
Oh, that's where you got the information about the 144,000 light workers that stay through Ascension. And at one point you said Mary of Nazareth is there. She's getting ready to go to Earth.
That's right. So I was really surprised to see Mary of Nazareth there. I was like, why would she be there with us? like, who are we? And then I said, oh, she's going to Earth, because she's going to Earth.
Right. So she was preparing.
Yeah, because see, what I realized with the help of Carrie Mook, who's also in tag that and has been on the show, is several things. And one is that Avalon is a place that was part of Atlantis. And I got this in the masterclass, that the vibration became very high, and it became a place of its own. And we reach it through portals. So time is of no time. So just because Mary of Nazareth was there, it doesn't mean it was that long ago. It could have just been, it's like a hub. It's a portal we go through from wherever we're coming in, and it's a hub. So we can come in through portals like through Celtic Avalon or through Atlantis Avalon. This is something I also got while talking to April Lindevald and Merlin. She channels Merlin. Mm-hmm. So there's more to it. So remember when I said I'm a mermaid? So it started out, I'm a mermaid. I'm in Atlantis, and then I remembered, this is something I remember. So I'm part of Alopiami's mermaids. She's a mermaid goddess in Atlantis. And then I said, I thought I was going to Atlantis, but really I was going to Avalon. I was just commenting what I saw, and I didn't see any fish. And I was like, I see trees underwater. I see vegetation, but I don't see any fish. Then I got up on the sand and I did a meditation with the central sun, and then everything dried up. Remember I said I had gills here?
Yeah. And you had also fins that were like wings, like angel wings?
Like bat wings. Underneath my arms. Yeah, when I was swimming. And then my tail was twice as long as I thought. So past the feet, and I could feel it. I mean, in this BQH session, I just felt like my whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was really cool. Mm-hmm. But all of it dried up in the sun. It didn't hurt, not like the Little Mermaid or anything. And then I got up, I walked to the top of the hill, and I was like, oh, now I clothe myself with my mind, and I put myself in those like priestess robes or whatever they were, alkalite robes. And then I walked to the temple, and this was the first time I had seen the temple from the outside. It's the temple of Isis, which is the temple there in Avalon, where Mary Magdalene, otherwise known as Our Lady, is training us all for this life. So that's like, what we're talking about. So I'm kind of going back and forth between what I know from tag or channeling and this BQH sessions, but I never saw it before from this perspective. So it was so cool. And your questions were so perfect, like what it looked like and everything. It was so neat.
Hey, that's awesome. And that's one of the things I love about Beyond Quantum Healing, is that not everyone, has experience channeling. And if you go to a session, then you're just like a passive participant. And what I love about Beyond Quantum Healing is that you get to experience it, right? You get to use all of your senses. And like you said, you could feel it. You could feel your tail.
I could feel the water, like the surface of the water, like my head being out of the water and the surface of the water. And then like what that feels like, which is a really unique feeling. Yeah. And then the tail, it was like a serpent. So cool.
That is so cool.
So some of the things that we were learning, you, me, Mary of Nazareth, even, I saw all of tag there, all the people there. Some I recognized and some I didn't. And some were female, but are male in this life. So I saw that, and she was teaching us all kinds of timeline things. So remember I did say that Thoth was there, and Jesus or Yeshua was there. They, even though they weren't women, they would come in periodically to anchor the masculine energy, the divine masculine, so that we didn't go too far because we were all women. And I also saw April Lindevald there as a woman. In one timeline, I've seen her there as a woman, but I also saw her as Merlin. Because I know I said, except for April, she's Merlin. She's like Merlin's apprentice. Yeah, she's a wizard. Merlin's apprentice, and she's in the back, and she's a male. But besides her, and then of course we got, I don't know if you know that, we've in tag since then, we've gotten that she was helping with the anchor the timelines or something. So that's one thing that we were doing. we were all working to make these timelines. And I saw that in that elfin life too. So in all these lives, I see I'm a light connector, which is something I knew. They would say counselor, light connector. They just kept saying that, especially when you asked, what is your purpose in this life, or those kind of questions. And it was so interesting. This is the kind of information that I just think is interesting for people to know, that we all, and many beings on this earth, we made all these timelines so that there would be no way that we would not go to Ascension. Every single timeline goes to Ascension. And the reason is because we built them. We built every single one in so many out of time places, because there was all the portals too that I saw in one of the other lives.
Right. And Avalon, in that life that you saw, the work that we were doing in the Temple of Isis, that was part of what we were doing, was working on those timelines towards Ascension for her.
Yeah, and then in that elven life where I was in that fairy portal, so I had another life where I was it's like a old cowboy, but I would go through this portal.
And you lived alone, and
I was like, all I do is eat beef jerky. What is the purpose of this life?
Yeah. But you were alone so that no one would know the work you were doing.
I didn't want them to think I was crazy. So that's why I was all alone. And remember, we were about to leave it because you said, what's the purpose? And I was like, I don't know. I helped this one person. That's all I see. And I could tell you were about to say, okay, we're going to leave this life. And I was like, wait a minute. There's a fairy portal here. And then through that life, which is what we're going to talk about the next time you come on, was so interesting because that was an elven life. There were all these masculine. So I don't know if you noticed, but I talked about giants, trolls, elemental dwarfs, elves. And I was looking for fairies. I might have seen one, but mainly it was all masculine beings, which I thought was interesting later when I listened to the recording of the session. And in there, that was a place where I really built a lot of timelines. So they were really doing it, the elementals, but they were asking me for my input because I was their human expert.
Yes, you came through the portal to work with them, and you were their expert. You were like a counselor to them to give them that human perspective.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, and you said that when you went through the portal, so much time would pass, but then whenever you went through the through the portal for your human life, it would be like no time had passed at all.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting, the human perspective of that, of like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy, so I live all by myself, and like all the things about like how the woman wanted to be my girlfriend, but I was like, nah, I need to live alone. And I was like, but I wasn't lonely. I was like, everybody stay away. I was like a grumpy old man. But really, I was having this incredible experience. And remember I said, the food here is so good.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I came to Earth to be a human who can eat delicious food. That's just...
But then all you experienced was eating beef jerky. No, there had to be something else that you experienced eating as the cowboy, because you were like, it's so good.
I was talking about the food and the...
Oh, sorry.
Isn't that funny? But I know the woman brought me pies, but I don't know if they were meat pies or what. I still don't even know where I was. I assumed I was like in Texas or something just by the way it looked, but that was just my ego trying to make sense of it. It could have been anywhere.
Okay, I'm with you now. I remember now the feast you talked about.
Yeah, food. And I thought that was funny because, they always say you're not supposed to eat in fairy portals.
You're not supposed to take anything.
Yeah, you're not supposed to eat or drink in fairy portals or you'll stay forever. And it was like the opposite. I was like pigging out, and then I would go back and no time has passed. And in that life was where Cornelius, who was an elemental dwarf, took me around and showed me all the earth portals and how the galaxy really looks, and which we'll talk about next time.
Yes, that part was so cool.
That part was really cool. Because, I have to question everything. I don't believe everything that people say. I want to know. I want to see it for myself. So he showed
in
me
the session
all
you
kinds of
did,
stuff.
right. And that's what I love about beyond quantum healing is that, you can experience sessions for your, personal growth or to remove blocks, to work on ancestral healing or just, confidence, anything, any type of reason, just like you would go to for a Reiki session. But there's also you can just have a session for the fun of it, just to explore
It was fun.
your consciousness, just to learn about past lives or future lives, and just to find out all of those cool answers that we all want to know.
That part at the end where we had written out all the questions that I wanted to ask, and you asked them of my higher self was really that was really helpful. So I did both. I had all that fun seeing all those things, and then I got all the answers I needed. I just thought that was neat.
Mm-hmm. And you've got personal answers
Mm-hmm.
pertaining to this life, and
like, what do I do about this? How can I fix this? How can I make this better?
And just give me all the knowledge answers.
I know. That was great. I'm still listening to it over. It's like amazing. Let's talk about Venus. Do you remember that life? That was really cool because I wanted to see lives that I had with my husband and my son. And this was one where I went to Venus and I was like, oh, they really are Hathors, because I was wondering about that, Venus and Hathors. That was where I saw him. So I guess that's why they showed me that one. And he was saying, and I was like, oh, these are the 8th dimensional beings. Because I had heard Venus has 8th dimensional beings and 4th dimensional beings. And I was trying to figure it out, how that worked, but I hadn't tuned in yet. So then he was like, all right, here you go. You're going to go into this life. And then he pointed down and we looked down and there was that 4th dimensional life.
Oh.
Do you remember that? And that was where I was part of a community. So this is so interesting to me because this is exactly where we are right now in Ascension. We are in this place where we are supposed to come together as a community again. And so there's 2 parts of the 4th dimensional. There's the duality, the bad guys, the Facebook that I use all the time. But anyway, whatever, this, the patriarchy, the whatever. And then there's, and keeping us fighting each other, like the duality. And then there's the heart-centered space that you need to go through to get to the 5th dimension. So, and that's what we were practicing in the Temple of Isis. That's what we were practicing. So in Venus, that's what it was. It was a 4th dimensional, sort of like partly ascended, kind of where we're going before we hit full ascension to 5th dimension anyway. And that, so we had just a few little jobs. Mine was to grow 3 herbs. One was, I think, lavender. One was something licoricey, and I don't know what the other one was. And I would make tinctures, and then I had some sort of meat stock. They were like not quite pigs. I don't know what they were. No, that was my job. And it wasn't too hard. We weren't like breaking our backs on a huge farm. We had these small jobs. And at the end of the day, we'd go to this fire and we'd sit around the fire. And as a light connector, which that kept coming up, I would connect people to their downloads. So we were all downloading all this information. This is kind of like what I do in TAG, actually.
Yeah.
This is what I do. I connect people to their to different beings and help them download information. So that's what I was doing. So I'd make sure that it would all happen. I remember I said it was like the Northern Lights. It was like really pretty. And so people who had a harder time connecting would go last because it was very meditative to look at the lights. And then I'd do myself last. And then that's what we did. It was like 8 people. What was really cool is that when it was over, we just took the whole thing, folded it up, zipped it up, and poof, it was gone. And I saw all the 8 or 9 souls fly off. And then I turned back and then I saw my husband in the incarnation again. And he said, okay, it's done. That was the whole thing was an exercise. It wasn't real. It was like it was some sort of exercise, like a matrix. And that made me think about this life. And then I had all kinds of like questions about our 3D matrix reality.
Yes.
Next time, I'll be asking all kinds of those questions.
Yeah.
And yeah, warning, it's super addictive.
That's what I love also is that in every session I've done with a client, reoccurring themes come up, and you had multiple themes
I did.
and the way they all connected, and to your current life with community and light connections, portals.
Do you learn a lot in these sessions? Like
Yes.
about the nature of the world?
Well, it just depends on what questions the client asks.
Do people ask crazy questions like I do?
No, you didn't ask too crazy of questions.
I'm like, I want to know it all.
I want to know too. I was encouraging,
I know you ask good questions.
Right. You can ask grand scale questions. You don't have to only ask personal questions about this life. You can ask questions about
our very existence, because that's the next one. We're going to find out some stuff.
Yeah.
And I found it really just interesting the way that it felt. It felt like a very, very deep trance. Only it was the opposite of the way trance channeling feels like. So in trance channeling, so your consciousness is over here. That's a little bit alike. And the beings like speaking through you. And that was what I experienced in the higher self part. But the other part is more like it's almost like you have deposited me in this 3D holographic world of my past. And so it's just me going, hey, I don't know what's going on here. Am I a dog? Like, what's happening? Who are these people? What's my purpose? I just don't get this. And then you would ask the right question. I'd be like, oh. Like there was that one life where I was like, those beings that's the one where I was like see-through and I didn't have feet. And I was like stepping on staglites or whatever it's called. I was inside a cave and there was like bad guys in the next cave system. And we were trying to figure out how to escape. But then it turns out we were always just trying to figure out how to escape. And then you were like, ask these questions. And I was asking the questions, trying to figure it out. And they were like, huh? And they didn't know what I was talking about. And then I just realized like, we're not that smart.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's happening here or what the point of this is. This is super depressing. We're always planning to overthrow the bad guys and we never can. And we just like the more and more that I found out about it was so depressing. And then I was like getting like discouraged. Like I was like, maybe I'm not, I thought I'd be good at this because I'm a trance medium. Maybe I'm not good at this. I don't know what's going on. This doesn't seem to make any sense. And then suddenly I realized that's because I wasn't actually that being. I was another being who had entered the consciousness of that being to try and figure out how their life worked so that they could help. So there was a lot of weird trance stuff in my past lives, like me going into another human's thing, or like even in our time in the Temple of Isis, where we did those heart-centered circle exercises, that and we astral traveled into, like we talked about before, into human lives, and then experienced that and came back. And then of course that's what I mean. That led to questions of like, is that all we're doing? Is maybe we went through a whole life, but it was only like 20 minutes in Avalon. And then maybe it was a reincarnation. We like went into this life, did a whole life, came to Avalon, back. I'm back from my meditation. I just had a whole life and I did not succeed at the heart-centered thing. Most likely we were all like, yeah, that time wasn't great.
Well, and maybe it was because similar to your life as the cowboy who went into the portal with the elves and fairyland, and then so much time passed in that world, but in your earth life, barely any time had passed at all.
Maybe it was.
I guess we'll have to
I
have another session.
I know.
Or
if anybody watching wants to give me questions for the session, I'm all for it. But everybody needs a session. Everyone have a session with Candace because she's awesome. It was so good.
Thank you.
How long have you been doing it? Tell us a little more about your experience.
Since I've been a Beyond Quantum Healing practitioner since 2019.
Do you have any cool stories?
The first time I experienced a session myself, I was a water being, and I thought that was so cool. It was just crazy.
No, tell me more. Don't stop there. I want to know if it's one of those crazy water beings I've seen before. I've seen so many.
No, we looked like it was just like a cell, with just like little sparks, and we were just the sparks of light. And or like almost like if I don't know, like if you've seen like a sci-fi movie and it's just like this like see-through blob,
Yeah.
But it was like water. It was just full of water, and everyone was just those individual sparks of light, and it was so interesting to experience my own individuality, my thoughts, and also at the same time experience the collective. We were a water collective.
I was about to ask you that question. Did you have any lives where you were hive mind? Does that exist? So you were kind of both.
Right. It was a hive mind or a collective. So I could have the thoughts. I had the thoughts of the collective, but then I could also experience my own personal thoughts. It's like, it wasn't like I wasn't still there. And then as other little sparks of light would pass by me, I would kind of recognize their individual light also.
That's
And
neat.
then some others passed by me, and I realized, oh, they're my family. Even though we didn't have the same type of family that we do on Earth, we experienced it differently, but they were still considered family, my loved ones.
That's so cool. You know what occurred to me too while we were doing this is, you have no reference to how big or small you are. And I was wondering, maybe we are really on Earth, but we're so tiny that we're like a cell organism or something like that. And that's why it's so weird and different. And if you think about that, then even the strangest shape doesn't seem weird at all. If you could be an amoeba or something like that. And so that's really neat that you said that. Maybe you were teensy tiny, or maybe you were huge,
Yeah, that's true. I've never thought about that.
I mean, we don't think about how huge we are compared to ants or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if we were an ant, we would think about how big we were, like humans were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, it would have been cool to, in that experience, it just gives me ideas as the facilitator that it would be neat to guide someone to get a larger view.
Ooh, let's do that next time.
Yeah.
I have a long list already. It's only been like a few days.
Yeah, literally 3 days.
What would be your advice for someone to get the most out of a Beyond Quantum Healing session?
That's a good question.
Like, I mean, if someone was like, I want to do a session, but I'm not sure what kinds of questions to ask, I mean, you guided me through some things like, do you want to know when you first decided to come to Earth? That was kind of cool, because some of my lives went from one life to another, to another, to another. It's like, oh, I'm this person. Oh, no, I'm just this person in that consciousness. Oh, now I'm this person, or I'm going here, Now, in that part where I was like, now I want to go to Earth. So I didn't want to go to Earth. I didn't know that. I said, I'm really getting bored of this. And I was wondering if there was something I could do that was more hands-on. And the person I was talking to said, oh, you want to go to Earth? That's about as hands-on as you can get. I was like, I don't know. Do I? Okay. And that's how I landed here, folks.
Sign me up.
I was like, sign me up for this painful experience. I can't wait.
Yeah. And that was so cool with your sessions, is that in more than one session, you experienced what happened, where your soul was before your life, before your incarnation.
Well, that's what I asked for, right? I wanted to know why I decided to come to Earth. And that was actually, I think that was your idea.
Right. But we didn't set that as a specific intention. We just put it out there whenever we were having our consultation call.
Yeah. All right. Well, what would you suggest for other people to think about what they might want to learn?
First I would suggest to just have maybe say positive affirmations, I am connected to my higher self. I am connected. I am in, I'm always connected to spirit. Just think positively about the session and that focus on that connection. Be open to receiving information from spirit. And I like to send the questionnaire that I have for clients. I like to send that out early, and then I think it gives time for spirit to really let things marinate and let synchronicities happen.
That's what happened with me. I was like, what's what I want to know?
Yeah, and your spirit guides start dropping you hints.
I think an interesting question would be to ask how you came to Earth. I thought that was an interesting thing that you brought me through. Or why am I here? Like it helped me with why am I here? Why am I here? Because I saw all these light connection things, and then they would say, you said, what is your purpose? Or you asked me some other question. And then I would hear things like counselor or light connector, and I was like, oh, I'm a counselor again. I'm a light connector again. Okay. Oh, and then in Avalon, remember, they told me I was teaching everyone else to be light connectors in this life. That's what I'm doing.
Right. And that answered your question.
Yeah. What am I doing? Yeah.
And about if it was possible to teach other people how to make the light connections.
Yeah. I mean, I do, because that is, what the trance classes are about, or liquid Reiki sound healing. That's what that's about. And you get certified that in the 3rd level of trance channeling. And that's what it is. It is light connections. And basically seeing it from a different perspective in this session really helped, because I see it in my mind a certain way, but then I saw it a little more physical. So I saw it like in that elfin life, I saw us drawing these, like almost like Dr. Strange, how he's like doing all that stuff, but these were like gold lines, and they were literally like timelines or whatever. And then they were connected to each other. And then we planned them all out. So I think that's so crazy. In all of these lives, we plan these timelines, and probably all of you did it too. Everyone is watching. And that way we couldn't fail. And I think that's really neat. Now, I remember watching this incredible video. I don't know if I could find it. They were talking about Project Looking Glass, and how they had a machine, this top secret machine, I don't know, it's Army or something, and it would predict what would happen if we did this, what would happen if we did this, what would happen if we did this. And past a certain point, December 12th, 2012, it never again went to anywhere bad. There was never, the ending was like, and then the world exploded. Every single ending went to Ascension. And so like, that's what I saw, that there's no way that we can mess this up.
Oh, I just love that confirmation.
I know.
That's so important for people to hear and know, and just feel it, in your heart, that just have that belief. Like, even if you feel like down, or, this is so hard, this path is so hard, like, you can do it.
Yeah, you can't fail. And if you're worried, if you still don't believe, then I suggest you have a past life regression with Candace. Your PQH, that's the right one right there. Mm-hmm. That's what you should do. And then you can see it for yourself.
You can see how supported and loved you are.
Yeah. But a session like this that you do, I think is so informative. It's so helpful. It's really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they all have their place. All the different types of healing and modalities.
All the Lightworkers. Yeah. Everybody see all the Lightworkers. We're here to help each other.
Support each other.
Support your small business.
Every modality has its place, but with Beyond Quantum Healing, like you said, that's one of the exciting and different things that you get to experience it firsthand, and you get to experience it in real time, which I think is powerful also.
That's the difference, really. It's in real time.
Mm-hmm. And then you can make those connections to your own, personal life. And
I have since then. So many things have come to light. Like I figured out so many things since then because of that.
it's also so powerful and transformative to experience it in real time, because you may doubt another healer or practitioner, but if you experience it yourself and you're going through it, then you have to trust yourself, or you don't have to trust yourself.
But I mean, you see it so real. And it's like, I mean, I couldn't make this up in a million years.
That's another piece of advice I would have for someone thinking about having a session, is to play around with your imagination. And on quantumhealers.com, Candace Goldman is the founder of Beyond Quantum Healing, and she's already made some great videos and guides to help people just play with their imagination and begin to learn to trust their imagination, because that's also important in the session.
Oh, I love to teach about trusting your imagination. That's perfect. Anyway, just a reminder that I'm always saying, like, imagination is just information from guides. Even you're not really making things up like you think, even when you're like, daydreaming. Sometimes it's astral travel too.
Mm-hmm. And remember that life you had as a cowboy who went through the portal, and Cornelius the dwarf told you and showed you how our imagination is used to create our reality.
Yeah, that was incredible, and so much information that we'll talk about next time. So thank you so much for coming on. This was fun.
Thank you so much for having a session with me. It was so fun, and I learned so much.
I did too.
And I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I really recommend that everybody get a session with Candace. You're going to love it. It is so cool. And next time we'll talk about the nature of our universe, what Cornelius told me. Okay, well, thanks. And I want to hear from the audience. Have you ever had a Beyond Quantum Healing session? And did you discover cool things? And do you have questions about the world that you would ask in one? Because maybe we can all learn from these ideas of what we can ask in our next session. So comment below. Please like this video and subscribe for more Ascension and 5D chats. And find Candace Dunovant at Beyond Quantum Healing at aquantumjourney.com. Thank you so much, Candace.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks everyone for watching.